Or you have something right now?
I love doing this. Really?
I owe you a pile of dirt and a car. I guess that's my two things.
Right.
Okay, I'm working on that.
Yeah.
I was gonna do that today, but we got a little storm thing going down.
You guys ready? This time we'll call the December 9th meeting of the City of Placerville City Council meeting, to order. And so if you'll all please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Ms. Zito, would you call the roll, please?
Vice Mayor Borelli. Here. Mayor Hagan.
Here.
Councilmember Patton.
Here.
Councilmember Thomas.
Here.
Councilmember Wilkins.
Here.
Thank you. And do we have any announcements or presentations of the public that we're aware of? Any council members have? Yeah, if the police department doesn't have that notified, maybe, I saw it in the paper the other day, and I also received an email and an Excel notice. Chief Scott Heller, Chief Heller, would you please kind of make that announcement? I mean, it was pretty important that what this police
Very
department and the citizens of this city did.
Sure, Mayor. Yeah, the police department was notified that during this past National Night Out event sponsored by the Town Watch Group back in August that I think most everybody participated in. We ranked #1 in the state for cities our size and #4 in the nation. So we continue to keep a positive, productive streak alive, it seems. And so the challenge next year will be to maintain that #1 position, I guess.
Challenge next year is to be #1 in the United States.
That's great.
Head there again. Okay. Closed session, I'll let you make that announcement.
We have nothing to report out of closed session. Probably should mention just quickly, Mayor, that our city attorney is out with an injury tonight. Nothing serious. He'll be back soon, but he's unable to be here tonight. So.
Not a workman's comp claim, right?
No.
Yeah, no. So just make that clear.
He's a contractor anyway. Adoption of the agenda, there is going to be, well, there'll be a change on item 12.1, not 12.1, I'm sorry, the one for council member reports will move up to 12.2 from 14. And that's because I attended a few meetings this past 2 weeks that I'll have reported out to. With that change, any, hear a motion?
Move for adoption. Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any comments? Okay. And all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? None? Passed. Ceremonial matters, certificates of recognition, employee service anniversaries. So at this time, we have a number of employees who have employee service recognition, and this is typically the meeting that we do that. So at this point, I would turn that over, I believe. In the past, Susan Zito has read off the names, I believe, or the department heads. So, but unfortunately, or fortunately, Susan happens to be one of those So I will, at this point, read off some names, and if the city manager will go out to the podium and meet him there, or do you want to?
Yeah, that's good, and I'll be there, and also if the department heads, when that person comes up, of that employee,
Okay.
will ask you to be there too.
So, under community service, Monique Plubel has 10 years of service. Congratulations, Monique. And from the police department, Officer Jason Elger has 10 years of service at this point. He was hiding. No. Or I know he was on a call a few minutes ago, so thank you for making it in here. And oh, we're trying to get some photos here. Thanks. Thank you, Jason, for your years of service. And under Water Reclamation Facility, John Millington, not here tonight. His 10 years of service.
Let's give him a hand anyway.
Yeah. Public Works Department, Brian Simpkins. Many of you might see him riding around town, or among one of his duties is he's the meter reader for the waters and does some other stuff in the water department. So thank you, Brian, for 20 years of service. And if we can get the supervisor for Miss Zito to come up. Oh, wait.
That'd be you.
And that's Ms. Zito has 25 years of service, and the record should note that she was the one who acquired the cake for everybody for this reception, and it's part of her duty. So, again, thank you, Susan, for your service. And I want to thank all of these employees that were just recognized. Over my 10 years, it's been a pleasure to work with all of these employees. The ones that we had problems with are no longer with us, but that's another story.
We're gonna miss him.
Anyway, yeah, I could say a lot of things tonight.
No cake for them.
So that was our ceremonial matters. We can do that under council reports.
I just think it's special.
Oh, we did a special thing this last Sunday. This council, and along with Councilman-elect John Clarici, we were in the parade, and I want to note that we received a lot of positive comments about this year's parade. So, one, the Mountain Democrat really needs to be thanked. Richard Esposito and the whole crew from the Mountain Democrat really did a good job in organizing the parade this year. We had, I don't know if we had any, do we have any incidents, Chief Heller?
Excellent.
So it was, we bring in a lot of people. Overtime staff from all the departments come in and help out. The Public Works Department helped set up barricades and stuff starting earlier in the week. The paper did all of the organization as far as the registration and entry fees and entry packets and all of that. But a lot of our city employees put in a lot of extra time on that particular day, and we really appreciate that. But I think the public in general was very appreciative of this year's parade. So it was well attended. I think the weather helps. We really did luck out on the weather. We had some great weather for this event, and I enjoyed it. I know the rest of the council enjoyed it, and I think the new council member, he had a good time out there too. And a lot of us had family and friends that attended the event. So
Mayor Hagan, along those lines, maybe you might want to mention the Christmas tree lighting too.
we did Christmas tree lighting,
Yeah, we did.
and I know I was there
Busy
according to the paper.
This is just Christmas spirit.
Yeah, it is the time of the year, and we've got trees up along the highway, and this, from the standpoint of the kids, I think is special. they look forward to the lighting of the trees and the trees along the highway, because this is one of the few places where they can see that.
Right.
So, anyway, thank everybody who participates in that, the Chamber, the Downtown PDA, for everything they do to help with this event. And I know you've got some other events coming up, and maybe you can tell us about those later. And, yeah, they did that. They donated trees again, didn't they?
Wow.
Yeah, the Christmas tree growers supply those trees, and the Chamber puts together the coordination of all of those trees. So, yes, sir.
I was gonna wait till staff reports, but I think I'm gonna ask Steve Yule to report on the upcoming storm. Can you do that now, Steve? He
I was
just
wondering if
let you
you-
know where we're at,
That's
so.
a good idea.
Oh, it's not just Christmas this time of the year.
It's not just good stuff, there's a few
We've got
others.
some prep stuff going on. So, yeah, the city
Sure.
does keep working.
Yeah, we're on to our next big event, that being a storm event. Well, I can just tell you in summary that we're preparing for the worst and hoping for the best. And I just want to assure the public that we're doing everything in our power to get prepared. We do have sandbags that are available at the Placerville Post Office. It's in the lower lot, and so it's a little bit difficult to find. But there's a big pile of sand down there, along with sandbags. Bring your own shovel, and that's available for you there. We'll have our crews out 24 hours checking for downed trees and localized flooding, but we're ready for that. If you do run into a problem with a down power line, I suggest that you call PG&E, and that number's 1-800-743-5000. For all the other calls, you can call our Placerville PD, and they will dispatch the appropriate resources to whatever that emergency. And obviously, if it's life-threatening, then that would be 911. Hopefully, our culverts are clear, and we've done an extensive lot of work in Hangtown Creek in preparation for this winter. So our chainsaws are ready to go. The trucks are gassed up, and we'll do our very best to try to keep our community safe and our property safe. So,
Thank you, Steve. Okay. So at this point, it is time for public comment. Brief non-agenda items. Keep your comments to less than 3 minutes. And also, there should be items that are not on our agenda. There's also, for written communications, we did receive one letter regarding an item that's coming up on the Planning Commission's agenda. So it's noted that we've all received a copy of that. And under oral communications, so anybody willing or wishing to come forward and make any comments? All right, it's Mother Hubbard.
Mayor Hagan and council members, my name is Pat Monso, and I represent the Friends of the Carey House Hotel, formerly known as the Friends of Hangtown. I am here to take advantage of the City Council's televised meeting to invite the El Dorado County children to the 13th Annual Tea and Toyland at the Placerville Town Hall, right here, this Saturday, December 13th. This is a correction to the date stated in the Mountain Democrat this past Monday. The date to remember is December 13th, this Saturday. Tickets can be purchased at the El Dorado County Chamber of Commerce and the Bookery on Main Street before Saturday. The tickets sell for $5 for children, $8 for adults. Our guest will be served tea and lunch by costume fairy tale characters and entertained by a magician and led in a jazzercise routine with Christmas music. The doors will open at 12:30. Tea will be served at 1 o'clock. The decorations will be amazing. This room turns into a fantasy land. The food presented is to the children's delight, and the day will be a Christmas memory for all and for some a tradition. And I would like to thank the City Council for this opportunity to reach out to our community, and Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Well, thank you, Pat. Any additional comments? Seeing nobody coming to the podium, I'm going to close off public comments and move on to the consent calendar. At this point, items 8.1 through 8.10 will be heard. We were going to pull 8.7, and that will be heard under items pulled from the council agenda, which would be 9.0. So do I have any other changes, or?
I just have a comment, Mayor.
Sure.
Would just like to commend Chief Heller on item 8.4 on this new program in helping link our local homeless up with resources in a very progressive new way. And that was just really exciting to read, and I really look forward to seeing this rolled out. So just well done on that. And I'm excited about 8.6 about the crosswalk improvements on Broadway. Much needed change. And it's wonderful to see so many projects getting done at the end of the year. So this is an exciting consent agenda.
Great. Any other comments, or do I have a motion?
I move that we adopt the consent calendar, or approve the consent calendar.
Second?
Moved and seconded. At this point, are there any comments from the public regarding our consent calendar items? Seeing nobody coming to the podium, I'll call for the question, please.
Vice Mayor Borelli.
Aye.
Mayor Hagan.
Aye.
Councilmember Patton.
Aye.
Councilmember Thomas.
Aye.
Councilmember Wilkins.
Aye.
All right. So we will now move on to item 9.1, 9.0, or 9.1 is going to be 8.7 from the consent calendar. Do you want to start, Mr. Oh, Rebecca? Okay, Rebecca Neves, our city engineer, will start with item 8.7.
Good evening, Mayor Hagan and members of the council. Just wanted to give you a little bit of a brief project history on the Eldorado Trails project to kind of catch you up to where we're moving forward and progressing with this item. The Eldorado Trails project includes two segments. Segment 1 is located along the old railroad right-of-way from the intersection of Ray Lawyer Drive and Forney Road near Main Street, and the Segment 2 is located on the north side of Hangtown Creek from Clay Street to Bedford Avenue. The bid documents containing plans, specifications, and the bid schedule were developed by the city's consultant Omni Means and were released for bidders on August 22nd. Bids were opened on September 9th, and the construction contract was awarded at the September 23rd council meeting in the amounts of $342,023 for segment 1 and $114,326 for segment 2. It was initially decided that construction management of the project would be handled in-house. However, as the project progressed into construction and with the transition of key city staff, it was determined that construction management support would be needed from the design consultant Omni Means. These services were not included in the original contract with Omni Means, and the amount requested for the amendment for the consultant contract is $12,000. In an effort to reduce project costs, city staff will be providing now construction management and inspections of the project with design support from Omni Means. Additional budget for city staff time is also requested to cover these services. Upon further review of the project budget, it was discovered that an inadequate amount was reserved for construction contingency. Staff is requesting that a contingency in the amount of $40,000 be included in the proposed budget, which provides for approximately 8% of coverage for the construction contract for any incidentals and change in the field conditions. Construction survey, staking, and geotechnical testing was not included in the original construction budget. Staff is requesting $15,000 for segment 1 and $10,000 for segment 2 for these services to be provided by the city's on-call consultants. Council received a revised staff report this evening that differs from the original reversion as published last week for the following reasons. City staff has been working diligently to reduce the amount requested for appropriation to still adequately cover the project to close out of construction, but also requests an amount that is necessary to complete the project. Tables shown on page 2 of your staff report have been revised as follows. Segment 1 of project encumbrances have been reduced from $468,175 to $432,, excuse me. Segment 1 requested appropriation has been reduced from $89,760 to $57,047. The table shown on page 3 of your revised staff report is also revised as follows. Segment 2 project encumbrances have been reduced from $192,013 to $179,776. Segment 2 requested appropriation has also been reduced from $44,326 to $30,688. The revised staff report proposes a total reduction of $46,351 from the original staff report that you received last week. Staff's recommendation to council is to approve a $10,000 consultant agreement amendment to, number two, to Omni Means for construction management support services for the El Dorado Trails Project Segment 1, and also to approve a $2,000 consultant agreement amendment to number 2 for Omni Means construction management support services for the El Dorado Trails Project Segment 2, and also to approve an interfund loan in the amount of $87,735 from the Reserve for Economic Uncertainties to the Park Development Fund. That concludes staff's updated report of this item, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Okay. Thank you very much. Is anybody up?
No, I was just gonna, I was gonna suggest that maybe just give a real short synopsis of what you just said. So
Yes,
that the
ma'am.
public can understand it a little bit better.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Basically, as we looked into this project, and there was some transition with staff, and we were a little bit workload was a little heavy at the time. We thought that perhaps we wanted to have construction management services done by outside, and then we looked at the cost ramifications of that, and in an effort to save costs on the project, the revised staff report basically takes that into account and reduces the amount that we're requesting for appropriation. We've decided to roll up our sleeves and do what we can and try to get the appropriate amount that we need to move the project forward to complete construction.
Is this gonna force you to have to take away from some of your other work? I mean, this is gonna be obviously a priority, so you guys are gonna be able to handle this.
Yes, ma'am. It will not be a problem.
Love it. Boy,
Okay.
It's not too often we get this kind of news, and just really thank, our city staff for being so diligent with our taxpayer dollars and for doing what it takes to not only get this project done, but to save money for the city. So well done.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And maybe this is a question for who sits on EDCTC? That has this been discussed? I know that we're talking about borrowing money from the Economic Uncertainty Fund, hoping to get other sources of money in the future. But I'm a little bit leery if that has that even been talked about, or do we?
I think
Cleve's been doing that.
We have met with Sharon Scherzinger, the director of ADCTC, and we are meeting with her again on Thursday. The original request in talking to her was the $134,000, and I think she was swallowing very hard to get through that one. But I think she's a little bit more comfortable with this. We have some work to do in talking to her and explaining where the differences are and what's going on. But there's no guarantees with it. As you know, EDCTC, the board makeup is 4 board of supervisors and 3 city council members. So it'll come down to what the vote is. But the funding is available if they want to.
That was my question.
that's-
Is
There is funding
a pot of
available.
money that we could actually go
Yes,
for that
yes.
you see a
Yes,
potential to?
we've confirmed that.
So your question is, yes, from an ETC, from the Transportation Commission standpoint, there is money available for these types of projects. And it would mean, obviously, a little less that's available next year, or in the year 16, 17, 15, 16 budgets. But again, this is an important project, and if we were to drop off on this project, our cost to change the contract with our contractor, and then we left out segment 2, would probably exceed, or I'll be very close to $87,000 in penalties.
Penalties.
So we're better off to put it in reserve, and then hopefully we can get $50,000 or $80,000 from a future project. We're better off to continue on.
And weren't,
Yes.
to back up, Mayor Hagan, in the Transportation Commission's Executive Director's Report, on September 23rd, the city awarded a contract to the lowest responsive bidder, and additional funds were programmed from ETCTC at our October 2nd board meeting.
Right.
Right.
That was prior
a
to the
previous
Prior to
one.
this, okay,
Yes.
prior to this. But, so it is part of our workload on the Transportation Commission. They're working hand in hand together
Yes.
on this, so.
Mayor, if I could just make one more comment. I want to make sure the public and the council understands this funding that we have reduced this about $44,000, correct? 46? $46,000. That's money that under normal circumstances, we would be looking in terms of cost recovery to recover that funding, to pay for our staff salaries. In this case, we'll look at other ways to recover that from not other ways to recover it, but hopefully the money that, our goal is to get more projects out the door this spring, and then we get that cost recovery, and hopefully it equals up to the amount that we're anticipating in our budget, so.
Great. Okay. So at this point, I'll open it to the public. Any comments or questions on item 8.7? Seeing nobody coming to the podium, I'll close the public comment period and bring it back to the council for action.
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion that we approve the revised 8.7 agenda item as prepared by Rebecca Neves.
Second?
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any other comments or questions? Okay, would you please call roll on the vote?
Vice Mayor Borelli.
Aye.
Mayor Hagan.
Aye.
Councilmember Patton.
Aye.
Councilmember Thomas.
Aye?
Councilmember Wilkins.
Aye.
All right, move on to item 10, ordinances, none scheduled. At this point, item 11 is the Boys and Girls Club's appeal, and that has, Mr. Voss, I believe we're still in negotiations and working on this item. So we're asking this will agree to remove this item to January 13th, 2015. Do you want to add any comments to that, Mr. Voss?
No comments to make at this time, Mr. Mayor, other than we have met with the applicant. We met with representatives from the Boys and Girls Club, and they're on board, and there wasn't any issue with them to postpone it and continue to work on coming into some consensus regarding the conditions of approval that we can bring back to the council.
Okay, thank you. Do we need any action on this? Just
Yes, you should take action to continue
Okay.
it to January 13th.
so
Move for continuance?
Second.
it's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Any comments from the public? Sorry, I left that out. Item 12 would be discussion items. Approved grant awards. Mr. Morris?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. As you recall, in your 2014-15 fiscal year budget, the council approved us $7,500 for community promotions, and at that time, we discussed making that competitive and offering it to the community for nonprofits or other groups that were interested in doing activities and things that might promote the city of Placerville. Those applications were sent out to interested, or notices of the application to interested parties. We received 2 applications on November 13th. Actually, 3 applications, I guess I should say. PDA submitted 2 applications, the Placerville Downtown Association. However, their applications were competing. I don't think they expected to get both. It would have been nice, but one or the other. Their first application was their sign program, which was their primary one, and then their hope was that perhaps they, if that wasn't something the council wanted to do, they submitted another application, which was for an advertising campaign. So their first application is for event signage. Their goal, and I've been working with Lisa Crummett and PDA on this for, looking at Lisa, probably a year and a half or more, trying to figure out a way to do something. And you have some examples in here, and you may have noticed down in the city of Folsom, they have some areas, 3 or 4 areas throughout their city where they have these signs that promote different events going on in the city. And that is the goal. The goal of PDA and the city would be to put a sign that would be visible from Highway 50 to get people off of Highway 50 and into the city. And I have to note that there are some questions about this still in terms of whether or not we can get Caltrans approval to place a sign that would be visible from Highway 50. So there's still some uncertainty in particular with this program, whether or not we would be able to do that. We've looked at a couple of potential locations. My work, and they're mentioned in here, one is near the Welcome to Placerville sign on the down by Spring Street. The other one is actually down, I'll say, near the Kentucky Fried Chicken area down, building down in that area. So there's two potential sites that we think this could possibly work. You have the budget there. They requested $7,500, and they would be matching that with $2,500. They've also had some conversation with the Chamber of Commerce about being part of this and trying to match, or in some amount, matching that to help with construction of it. The idea is that all three organizations, the city, the PDA, and the Chamber of Commerce, would be able to have panels up there for their events when they wanted to. It's also would be available for others if they wanted to rent a space on there for nonprofits, too, similar to what we do with the banner across Main Street, to be able to put up a banner or a panel up in the sign to advertise their events on Highway 50. I wanted to mention that if you look at the drawings that are in here from the Folsom sign, I think is not constructed quite as well as what we would like to see. We patterned what they've proposed is patterned after the signs that we have currently in town off of Highway 50 on Spring Street, and I believe similar to the one that is up on Bedford also. That one's a little bit more than what we looked at. But, so that's what the idea is behind their first application. There is, this would not completely pay for it. We'll have to do some more work. There may be some in-kind work that we could possibly do as part of the proposal, and I've talked to Lisa about that to hopefully get closer to the total amount they need. Otherwise, we would look at some other ways to raise the funds to get the rest of the money for the program. Their second application, and you have the details on that, is primarily a media advertising campaign. They've listed different areas where they would like to use the money to advertise and promote the city of Placerville and their events that PDA has that they do throughout the year. The third application comes from the local group of the United States Gold Panning Association, who submitted an application to us, and they actually made a presentation also to our Economic Advisory Committee and requested that the city assist with some of their funding that they need, and they need quite a large amount of funding. This is just a drop in the bucket for what they really need. But they're doing a good job from what I've heard, and their presentation was very well received by the Economic Advisory Committee. They also requested, their amount that they requested is $7,000, if you detail out the various things that they requested. They also have a program for different levels of donations, and the Economic Advisory Committee recommended $7,500 donation, and they requested $7,000 in their request. They also, in there, if you look at their levels of donations, which I'm not sure really matters a whole lot, but they have them in 2,500, or they go 2,500 to 5,000 and then to 10,000. So those are the applications, and I think you can see that theirs would be used for advertising and other preparations going into the actual event, which happens in 2016, the World Gold Panning Championships in August. And I think you're going to be hearing a lot more of that as we go along. There's some events that will affect us in terms of things happening downtown that we will work with them on going forward as we move into the next year. So what I have recommended to you, there's various options that you can choose and how you may want to allocate this funding. What I have recommended is that we award $5,000 to the PDA event signage program. And again, that's going to take some more work to see if we can make that happen. But if we have that funding going forward, I think it gives them what they need to start moving forward and making some more solid commitments to getting that done. So I've recommended $5,000 to the PDA for the sign program, and then $2,500 to the Gold Panning Association. However, in my recommendation, I recommend that we look at giving an additional $2,500 in the coming fiscal year either part of this grant program or part of our budget, however we want to do that, for a total of $5,000 to the Gold Painting Championship request. So that's my request. I know we have representatives here tonight from both organizations. If you have questions for them, they'll be happy to answer them, or I can try and answer questions also.
Okay, any comments or questions of Mr. Morris or
No,
at this
not
point?
from Cleve.
I have one thing that, and I don't know if I'm saying this right, but I'm thinking of the other two districts that we have in Placerville. So if you do this signage for downtown, and you were just saying that other folks could maybe rent a panel or something, but and you know, this has been a concern. We've talked about the three districts being Placerville, and so I'm wondering if somehow this signage could be such that it would recognize that there's other areas. I don't know if I'm saying that
I know what you're
right,
saying.
that you're understanding what I'm.
Yeah.
And Wendy, I know the plans that were made for Broadway and Placerville Drive haven't gelled yet because of the economy and
Well,
everything. But
Broadway did install signs that mirror this, and so they're at Chanel School and Main Street and Broadway.
right.
So we do have a signage up there. The association's not active right at this point,
Yeah.
but having similar signage on Placerville Drive as it gets going, we could use this throughout our city.
right, and
So-
but I'm thinking this is going to be the highway, whereas.
So that's true.
See, and
Possibly.
so I'm sorry.
Possibly, it's up to Caltrans partially.
Well, yeah. So anyway, I was just thinking, and maybe as part of the, you were saying that they could purchase rights or panels or something, that maybe we could work something out like that.
I do have an idea with that. Looking at the drawing, there's 3 slats, and it says Historic Placerville Events. Now, those are, I can imagine those will be filled most of the time with events downtown. What if under that, you left some space, and then you had one more bar, and then that bar was rented out to the community, and, for a fee that, for nonprofits or for events on Broadway or Placerville Drive. So it's not lumped in with Main Street's events, and it's kept separate. But there's an opportunity to advertise some other, I don't know if that's a possibility.
Sure, I think the idea was, and Lisa, you'll have to correct me if I say this wrong, but we have the 3 panels that we show on the sign. One would be city, one would be chamber, and one would be PDA.
Oh, I see.
And each of those we would have a standard panel that we could have in there all the time when it's not rented, so we don't have a blank sign. But it would be something that would talk just generally about the city, about the PDA, and about the chamber. So whenever there was an event, say the PDA has an event, they would take out their panel and they could put in a panel advertising that event and replace it as time goes
So
on.
all these are not for the PDA events?
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
Is that correct? Lisa, thank you.
She was agreeing.
I
yeah.
misunderstood that. Okay, thank you. I
Okay,
misunderstood
yeah.
that.
So actually, there's 3 panels that could be, depending on what's going on, could be used for different events. In the city.
Who is going to control this, as far
PDA.
as content? And let's say a nonprofit has an event coming up, who would they contact for one of these panels?
The idea right now is that the city would control it, and I've talked about, because there is potential that this could bring in hopefully enough revenue to maintain the signs and et cetera. So right now it's proposed, and we haven't worked out all the details. I don't think I've even mentioned it to Steve Yule, but that it would be run similar to our banner program on Main Street.
With an application process and all
Right.
that? Okay.
Right.
All right,
I have a question.
Sure.
I have actually 2 questions. This grant is specifically for their signage. What would happen if if Caltrans didn't allow them to put that sign? Could they use it for would they still have control of it, or would they have to return the money?
I want to emphasize that whatever they do in terms of signage has to come back to this committee, or this council for approval, because we don't have enough details yet. So it may be, number one, that either they come back and find out we can't do it on Highway 50, we look at a possible another location that's inside the city we have jurisdiction over, or they may have to turn the money back in or request it to be used for their other project, and that would be the council's decision at that time.
Okay, and part 2, we have discussed adding more money in July for this program instead of just the 7,500. And this says that for the Gold Panning Association, we would, for your recommendation, we have 2,500 now, and then in parentheses, with a commitment to fund an additional 2,500 in July of 2015. So does that mean that if we decided to fund more towards this, that they would have dibs on the first 2,500 of it?
Yes, that's what I'm proposing, is that whether or not you fund an additional 7,500, or maybe you decide to fund 10,000, so you have 7,500 plus what you've already committed to the Gold Panning Association. And that will be determined when you go through your budget process, how you want to handle that.
But we would promise them.
Yes. My recommendation is that you commit to that
That's, well, yeah, that
2,500
if we-
next fiscal year.
Your recommendation.
Yes.
We can't commit the next board or the next city council.
Carl, follow up to, I'm sorry. I
Carol?
thought you said no.
Go ahead, Carol.
I did it for, so I just want to put this out there because I've fought with Caltrans on signs, and I see Mr. Acuna out there too. That it's much easier to deal with content of signs than it is to get a new sign approved. And that being said, my idea many years ago was to go in with Kiwanis on the Welcome to Placerville signs. There's 3 of them.
Rotary Club.
Rotary Club, pardon
Get
me.
that right.
The Rotary Club signs, and do basically the same design, only do it on the rocks of these signs. And then you would have an entrance sign at the east end, an entrance sign in the center of town, and an entrance sign at the west end of town. And your panels, your replaceable panels, could just be on top of those rocks. And I'm sure you could get it to look similar to the pattern that's already there, because Caltrans was very difficult to negotiate with to try to get a new, whatever you wanted to do, to get anything new put on in the scenic corridor. So that being said, I would just like to put that out there. And I'm all for getting a decent sign. I mean, I'm not saying that these are ugly by any stretch, because I don't think they are, but I'm just, rather than the Folsom sign, because I hate the Folsom signs.
It's cheesy.
Can I just comment on that? That is one of the options we've talked about, actually.
talk
just
to Rotary?
Somehow, no, we haven't talked to Rotary, but
Oh.
we wanted to first bring it to you and see. I wasn't concerned, I was concerned how you would feel about adding to that sign and the look.
Well,
but-
there used to be.
But if we can do it right, I think there's a possibility it can be done.
I think the service clubs and the churches, they had the triangular sign, remember, for a long time, but then I think there was also something on the rocks themselves at one, but at any rate, I think that, like I say, content of a sign is way easier to get through Caltrans than building a new structure.
Okay. So at this point, does anybody have any particular questions of Lisa, or would Lisa like to come up and make a few statements, because you're the applicant at this point? One of the applicants.
Good evening, Mayor Hagan and council members. I'm Lisa Crummett with the Placerville Downtown Association. And I just want to start by saying that this year has been a fantastic year for Placerville and Main Street. We started out with kind of a theme that's ongoing now, and that is Our Main Street Matters. Started with the Benjamin Moore Paint What Matters project that gave a facelift to a number of buildings that were in the approved project zone. We're going to follow that up hopefully with Pave Main Street, which will be coming in the spring hopefully, and also will include other rehabilitation facets, including the water hookups and whatnot. And wouldn't it be great if, when our Main Street and all of those new and improved features are available, we could market what matters with a great sign. So that's kind of where we're at with that. As Cleve said, I've been working with him and also Pierre for over a year, just trying to put the idea out there about having a sign. I agree that the Folsom sign is completely cheesy, but it is an example of the type of sign that we're trying to get, and that is to feature events. The good news is it was never intended to be just for PDA events. It would be for any nonprofits in the city of Placerville, and hopefully be managed similar to the Banner Over Main Street project or program, and eventually a revenue generator for that too. The Folsom Chamber of Commerce makes a great deal of money on which I'm sure you guys wouldn't be charging high fees, but but anyway, it is a revenue generator for them. So that's what we figured would be a great thing to apply for our grant for. And if you have any other questions, I'd be happy to answer those.
Any additional questions?
No, just
Okay.
Sounds very worthwhile.
Thank you very much.
Yep.
Any comments from the public in general regarding this particular item? Seeing nobody coming forward, I'm going to close the public.
The gold-
Other applicant.
gold-
On this whole item, 12.1. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, the gold panning. Go ahead. I apologize, it wasn't clear.
No problem. Good evening, Mayor Hagan and Council. My name is Kara Dima, and I'm one of the event coordinators for the 2016 World Gold Panning Championships to be held here in Placerville, September 11th through 18th in 2016. On behalf of our team and volunteers, I'd like to extend our gratitude to the City of Placerville for consideration of this grant. One thing we did not present in our presentation a couple months ago was I do have a financial impact estimate here. I was given a formula from Jody Franklin from the El Dorado County Visitors Authority. So this is a week-long event, and it's anticipated to be attended by more than 600 competitors from more than 30 countries from around the world. And tourism dollars are estimated to be tremendous, with over an $800,000 impact for that week for our local businesses. Thank you again for your consideration, and do you have any questions? I'll do my best.
Any questions?
Just a comment, I just commend you for taking on such a huge event, and it's just so exciting to think it's going to be in our little city, and just thank you for working on that.
Oh, you're welcome.
Real exciting.
You're welcome.
And
It's big.
my comment is that Tricia and I have both been going to your meetings, and the things that you bring up are things that I would have never dreamed that had to be addressed, but I just really think that this is Placerville's time to shine.
It is.
And,
This is
it's going
such-
to, like you indicated, it's worldwide, and we're going to be in the spotlight, and I really think that, we can do a good job and put ourselves out there and really promote us. As Lisa was just talking about, we can promote our town, so.
Yes, the City of Placerville is a perfect complement for this event, so. Yes, thank you.
I have one more comment, just to go with what Patty was saying. This is what Placerville has that a lot of other people aren't going to have, and we need to cash in on this.
That's true.
Okay. All right, any additional questions, comments from the public? Seeing nobody approaching the podium, I will close it at this time and bring it back to the City Council for action.
I'd like to move that we approve the grant awards to the Placerville Town Association for $5,000 and the United States Gold Panning Association for the 2014 Community Promotions Grant for $2,500, with a commitment to fund at least an additional $2,500 next year.
Second.
Okay.
Would you entertain the idea of not committing to the $2,500 only because I just personally think we shouldn't do that, even though I agree with that we should fund it. I just don't think we should commit next year's budget $2,500.
I think that's a budget discussion item.
Well, it's,
But
it's
isn't it-
part
I
of the
think verbal
motion right now.
content,
Right.
The intent would be
The
to fund
intent
At
is-
least,
at least, or
at
have
least
them
an additional.
have them reapply, because they may have something else they need too. I mean,
And-
I'm just,
And I'm not, my proposal is, my motion is not to tie up and this promotions grant for next year. And I agree with you that we should not commit funds for a grant program next year. It's as a budget item in our next year, which is, I believe, the intent, perhaps.
Maybe, and I understand what Councilmember Patton is
Yeah, I
saying.
do
Maybe
too.
a better way to do this would be, say, indicate our intent to fund an additional $2,500 next year without making that commitment, because technically you should not be committing to what you don't. you're
So
not-
I'd like to amend my
yeah, that's
motion.
good.
Okay.
But I think if you have that intent, then you'll have 4 of you will still be here. I think it's pretty well understood what you will attempt to do, barring some unforeseen circumstance that comes up.
Okay, I'd like to amend my motion for clarity. approve grant awards to the Placerville Downtown Association for $5,000 and the United States Gold Panning Association for $2,500, with the intent to fund at least an additional $2,500 next year.
Change commitment to intent.
Intent.
Yes, and at least 2,500.
Yes.
Yes, second.
Okay.
Okay, so it's been moved and seconded. Would you please call roll?
Vice Mayor Borelli.
Aye.
Mayor Hagan.
Aye.
Councilmember Patton.
Aye.
Councilmember Thomas.
Aye.
Councilmember Wilkins.
Aye.
All right. At this point, we'd like to do council reports. And I moved it up because of a couple reasons. One is I've got reports to do, and so I won't be on the dais here in a few minutes. Under Transit Authority, did we have a meeting? Yes? Okay.
No, go ahead.
Okay, yes, we had a meeting.
Ms. Wilkins?
I
All
think-
right, that's the report.
That's my report. I think
Good.
the only thing that had to do with Placerville is we had an item pulled off of our consent calendar about the possibility of a trolley working with one of the organizations in our town, but we haven't discussed it yet, so that's to come.
Okay, great. Coming with the future, good. The Transportation Commission,
Yes. I think one of the most important things for people to know about is that the Transportation Commission has gotten an agritism mobility study, which is really exciting, and the project will begin in February 2015, and we've been awarded money to look at the impacts of Apple Hill on our local road. How it impacts our roadways, especially Highway 50, and how we can best address the backlog that occurs while making sure that we have the circulation patterns we need to keep attracting visitors up to our county. So that's going to be a really exciting study in which we can have some really good data to know how we can best make this a win-win for everyone. So I'm excited about that.
Will there be meetings with the public on that? An outreach for the public so they can have input?
Absolutely, yeah.
They always do.
Stakeholders
Has there been any announcements of dates or times yet?
It just says February 2015. So they're working on the stakeholders right now on that. And then lastly, a report came out that just very briefly, the Highway Trust Fund is a crucial challenge for us securing the road monies that we need to fix our roads. I know that's an ongoing conversation with this community and communities across America. And just very briefly, that Congress approved a budget patch this last year to keep the Highway Trust Fund going, and we will run out of money again next year. And what's they're estimated at, that we will be $60 to $80 billion in the hole by 2020. $80 billion. Now that has tremendous ramifications for our roadways nationwide. And so the three fix-its that they're looking at is number one, to increase the gas tax by 10 cents and adding 15 cents to diesel tax. And that would give us the money we need to fix that. They're also looking at a gas sales tax, which is in addition to the fuel tax. That's estimated to bring in about $155 billion. The challenge with that is that the burden often falls more on people of lower incomes, so it's a little more of a challenge for our economy. The other thing that is gaining traction at a national level is a mileage fee, and they're looking at 1 penny per mile, and trucks, I think 4 cents per mile, which would bring in $246 billion. So it would give us the funds we need. However, with both an increased mileage fee and a gas tax fee on trucks, you can only imagine that's going to drive the cost of goods and services up for our economy, which has, once again, challenging ramifications for us. So just kind of wanted to fill people in on that our roads are in dire need across the country, and an easy fix is not on the horizon. So.
Well, that was obvious with just the report on Placerville's roads.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
how deep, yeah.
okay, under LAFCO, no meeting. Under SACOG, just a Transportation Committee meeting this past week, and several items they're working on the 2035 Metropolitan Transportation Plan, update to that, and the Sustainable Communities Strategies update. Those items are updated every 10 years. And one of the things that reports that came out of this is we're starting to look at outcomes from the early blueprint and the earlier transportation plans. And of course, one of the things that we've noticed is over the years, we average about $43 million in our region for road work and projects. This past year, because we had projects ready, substantially more ready than other areas of the state, we were able to qualify for $73 million in projects. So we averaged a redistribution of over 30 million additional dollars went into this region. And that's just an example of how working as a regional government, working together as a regional, with our regional partners, we were able to get quite a bit done in this community and other communities. In that regional, SACOG is made up of 6 counties. 2 counties have their own transportation planning agencies. El Dorado County is one and Placer County is the other. And we also were part of those recipients of that $73 million. So our communities all benefit greatly from working in conjunction with other communities and other counties in this area in this planning. Our planning documents, our planning work that's done as a whole works out substantially better than us trying to go it on our own. And what it cost us as far as membership, it's a couple $1,000s a year, I think, in the regional. We make up for in substantially more that we bring into this community by being a participant and an active participant in that SACOG regional program. So I just want to put that out there to the public, that to understand the advantages of working in a metropolitan transportation area. It's actually a requirement of the federal gas tax or the transportation funding that Wendy was talking about there, that we do participate, because that's the way the federal dollars are distributed. Our gas tax money that's collected goes back to Washington, and it's redistributed out to counties and regions based on a metropolitan transportation plan. So if you don't have those programs in place, you're not at the trough.
You don't have the seat at the table, right?
You're not at the table. So anyway, that's my departure notes on SACOG. Under SEDCOR,
Yes,
Ms.
we
Rowley?
had our Christmas meeting, and SEDCOR is still in the throes of making some changes, and nothing's for sure yet, so I'm not going to give any report on it, but it's forthcoming.
Okay. At this point, we are at item 13 point, go back a page.
4.
Item 13, 13.1. I don't know who's in charge of this. Am I in charge of,
Susan's.
do I make these comments?
No.
Oh,
Okay.
okay,
You're going to turn it over to me now.
all right.
Okay, well, I am going to begin with a proclamation for guess who?
I haven't got a clue.
Okay, this is a proclamation commemorating the retirement of Mayor Carl Hagan from the City of Placerville City Council. Whereas Carl Hagan was appointed to the Placerville City Council on November 30th, 2004, to serve out an unexpired term of office following the death of Councilmember Robert Salazar. And whereas Carl participated in a public interview process along with 8 other well-qualified candidates, and during those interviews noted that if appointed, the Highway 50 improvements and the relocation of the sewer line in Hangtown Creek would be his first priorities. And whereas in May 2006, work commenced on the Placerville Drive US Highway 50 eastbound on-ramp and sewer line relocation project following the $35 million construction contract awarded by the El Dorado County Transportation Commission to Mitchell Engineering. And whereas during Carl's tenure on the city council, he has represented the city as either an alternate or commissioner on the El Dorado County Transportation Commission for 10 years, El Dorado County Transit Authority for 4 years, Sacramento Area Council of Governments for 4 years, and the Local Agency Formation Commission, LAFCO, for 8 years. And whereas over the years, Carl's community involvement has included spending countless volunteer hours in service organizations including the Kiwanis Club of Placerville, New Morning Youth and Family Services, the El Dorado Community Foundation, Marshall Hospital Community Advisory Board, El Dorado County Chamber of Commerce, YMCA Western Slope Aquatic Center, and he has also coached Recreational League youth basketball, soccer, and Bobby Sock softball. When did you have time to sleep? And whereas Carl's dedication to his community and responsibility to the city council has earned him the respect and admiration of his fellow city council members and the city staff, and on December 9th, 2014, Carl will retire from the Placerville City Council and will relinquish his seat to a newly elected council member. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed that Carl Hagan has served the city of Placerville in his 10-year public career, earning him the high regard of his community and colleagues. The city of Placerville wishes Carl the best of luck in his well-earned retirement. Patricia Borelli, Patty Borelli, Vice Mayor of Placerville.
Thank you.
And as a token of our appreciation, this is from the city of Placerville.
Thank you.
Would you?
Yeah, chocolates. Not chocolates. Thanks. All right. Thanks. I know you took part in this, so thank you very much.
Would you like to say a few words?
I'll try to say a few words. It was interesting that the wastewater treatment plant came up in the first paragraph or the second paragraph of this whereas proclamation. Again, it's not necessarily a glorious or glamorous thing that you do, but it's actually one of the things that the public depends on as far as clean water. And the state requires a certain level of clean water, and we must maintain those levels. I didn't appreciate and didn't understand exactly how much we depend on this, except when you start looking at the fines if it's not done properly. And those fines can well exceed the cost of doing the repairs. And I think that was one of the things that went with. I remember going back to Washington with John Driscoll and begging for earmarked dollars for additional funding toward this, explaining that we had a approximately $40 million project, of which it's being paid for by 2,700 ratepayers. So you do the math and figure out a way to pay back $40-some million with 2,700 ratepayers. And some of the most contentious times we had were once that project started and the construction started moving forward, was looking at water rates and wastewater rates. We had some pretty packed houses. We in fact had to move to the gymnasium up at the Seventh-day Adventist School to hold our city council meetings regarding waste and water rates, wastewater and water rates at Publix. And one of the things we discovered was that in the past the city councils had not kept up a simple cost of living rate increase. Most of us understand that when it comes time to negotiate salaries. Many of us don't understand it when it's time to pay our fees for water and wastewater and electricity and insurance and a number of the things that are mandatory as we grow. So hopefully I brought that and was able to convince and talk to people about increases in rates and increases in services so that the public was able to understand some of that. Again, those hearings made the roundabout look easy. And that was also another item that was not a simple thing to talk to people about. I think hopefully this city has learned some lessons in that area. I hope the public realizes that that is not the answer, is to hold an election for every time you want to put in a stoplight, every time you want to put in an intersection, every time you want to make an improvement. This body looks 25 to 35 years down the road. Yes, we do budget 1 year at a time, and we do approve things 1 year at a time, like we just approved some funding for some advertising and some signage, and we approved some stuff for business development in the way of gold pans, the gold panning competition, which will bring a substantial amount of people and projects to town. And we're constantly working with new businesses, new concepts, new ideas to bring to this city, this area, this community in general. And I think that's a key thing that this council does, that this city does. Mr. Avas sometimes is the point person, along with Mr. Morris, as far as dealing with potential new businesses or projects that want to come to this area. The other thing I guess we could do is, if we didn't do that, we could bury our heads in the sand and just say, we're here, don't bother us. But to me, it's important that my kids, my grandkids, have an opportunity to come back to this community if they want to. Thank you very much.
Everybody?
Okay. Tricia, would you like to say something? Comments?
Without crying, maybe, I don't know. I told you this at your party, and I don't know, we haven't always agreed, but the first time I met you in your office before I was running for council, one of the things I told you is that and I wanted to be Carl Hagan in 30 years. And then when I told Bam, she said, you're going to open an insurance company? But no, when Patty was reading off the that list of things, I mean, anybody, that's what I would aspire to. I highly doubt that I could reach that, but I'm sorry. But I just want to let you know that I love you, Carl.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Well, I've known Carl for a few years. We won't even mention how many, but I have, while I haven't always agreed with you, I have always respected your opinion and always looked to you for some compelling reason why I should vote some way different. And I appreciate that, and I appreciate your opinions and your view on the city and the community. I mean, when you look at what you have done over the years, it's no wonder that you're as well respected out there as you are. And I have been privileged to sit next to you for 2 years, only 2 years, but I feel honored and privileged to sit next to you and to be considered your friend.
Thank you.
Wendy?
Yes. Well, Carl, I'm going to incriminate both of us in this comment. I remember Carl as a little girl at Kiwanis. I would go to Kiwanis with my grandfather every year, and Carl was there with his girls. And you were always so kind to me. I would just see you once a year, and yet that was enough to make me look forward to coming back the next year with my grandpa, and I looked forward to seeing you. And so 20 years later, imagine how thrilled I was as I was sworn into City Council 4 years ago to now be a colleague with you. I share Tricia and Carol's and Patty's awe of being in your company. You are such a beloved, respected leader in this community, and it has truly been a privilege to work with you, to serve with you, to benefit this city that we all so dearly love, and to have learned from you. And I'm so grateful how you have mentored me these last 4 years. I will be always grateful for that. And you are dearly loved and respected. And we thank you so much for your dedication to this community. It's been a privilege to serve with you, Carl.
Thank you.
Well, what can I say?
I don't know.
I've known Carl for a long, long time and always considered him my friend. And I too, it's just truly been just great being here on the council and serving with him during my 2 terms. And I think we all, from what I read and what you're hearing, we all realize what a loss that we have. There will be more who will come along, and you know, that's what this is all about, this whole process. And but I do hope that you don't leave us, that you do come back, give us advice when we need it, whatever. And we're looking forward to seeing you here in the future.
Thank you.
And thank you again for everything you've done for us.
You're welcome. I'd open it for public comments, but I'm afraid it just.
I'm
you're in charge.
now. You just
Whoa.
If I want to open the public comments, I can.
Go ahead.
I will.
Push the button.
Good evening, Mayor Hagan, council members. My name is Trish Sweeney, and I'm with Assemblyman Bigelow's office. It's my honor tonight to present Mayor Hagan with a resolution from the state of California legislator.
Very cool.
Turn around. Come on. Come on, you mini koalas. Come on. Did that work? Got it. Thank you very much.
Is there anyone else in the public would like to come forth and say a word or two?
Did you just get that? A word or
There's
two?
a 3-minute time limit tonight.
Just plain old Jack Sweeney here. You know, sometimes you never know how what you're doing affects others. But Carl, when you said that about looking forward, you've laid a good, strong foundation. You've helped be part of that foundation. And that's what's important, that what you've left, others can build on. And that's what you want to look back at. Maybe you want to kick them once in a while if they don't build quite right, but help them keep it true. And being a county supervisor, sometimes with the city council you get crossways, but Carl had a real job. He was the serious guy from El Dorado County going to SACOG. I'm not sure my colleagues on the Board of Supervisors were always as serious as Carl was, and I'm not saying they were wrong, but Carl always did his homework. He always beat it back to the Transportation Commission meetings here in time after he left his SACOG meetings and brought us all the good news. And I think the kind of representation that you illustrated was not just that of a city council member, but that of a community member that was larger, of that regional membership that's important. There are people today that don't want Placerville or the county of El Dorado to be regional. But I remember when I was going to junior college and a woman said, you know, there's more world out there than the city of Placerville. And that world has shrunk, and we must be regional. You talk about Highway 50. When they build that connector down to Elk Grove, whatever it's called, look at the traffic that'll take off of Highway 50 that'll help our people go back and forth to work. I mean, that'll help our goods come to El Dorado County. So you're right, and you've laid a good foundation, And I was always proud and happy to have you as a partner on some of those committees we shared, and especially though your representation of the city of Placerville on SACOG was very important to the county of El Dorado. So thank you very much for what you've done for our community, and you've done a damn good job. Thank you, Carl.
Thank you.
Okay, well, let's see if there's anybody else like to?
Uh-oh.
They said, uh-oh. I don't know. Good evening, plain old Mark Acuna. I learned quick from Jack.
Yeah.
I had the good fortune of being on the city council in 2004 and being a part of the group that made the wise decision. Little did we know how wise, to have Carl come in and fill that vacancy. And just to, as I'm sitting here and listening to all your wonderful, well-earned words describing Carl's duties to the city, I'm struck that he is truly solid as a rock. I mean, the business that he is in as an insurance man, it's great to go and have your coverage, but some bad things can happen. And if somebody was well suited to deal with people, think about the types of things that Carl has dealt with. He brought that just solid, calm commitment, professional, to the last moment with everything he ever did. He was always there. He always understood his role as a council member, as our mayor, as a representative on a number of committees, on some of the famous trips that we made back east, and when it was more successful to get some of our tax dollars back from Washington, D.C., we could always count on Carl being professional, thorough, and coming back with a detailed report as to what happened. It's obvious that his commitments at SACOG, which I know, sometimes people question whether we should be involved. With somebody like Carl representing this city, we were well served for many years by Carl's efforts. I think it's very important for our bigger regional partners to remember that we are here and we are participating. And I think Carl was just absolutely the perfect person to have involved in that. And whichever one of you fills those shoes, you're going to have a challenge, because I think you really set a standard for our small community and earning the respect from a lot of very large regional characters and regional players. So I would just like to say that it was an honor, Carl, to serve with you, always through good times and not so good times. And you're right, the water and sewer rates were a very contentious time. We had a lot of different problems. You were always there to make sure that we understood at the end of it that we had a responsibility to our city, to our ratepayers, and to our future ratepayers. And I commend you for your many years of service, not only as a council member, but for all your community. Yes, it was amazing. When did you have time to sleep? Thank you very much.
Anyone else? Okay, with that, I understand Mr. Hagan. Mr.
I wanna
Hagan,
say-
who is no longer the mayor, Mr. Hagan
Yeah.
would like to say a few words.
I just want to add to it. I appreciate Jack's kind words. Jack's put several years into this community, and so has Mark. But thank you very much for those kind words. I also want to thank my wife and my family. In some cases, they put up with more than I've had to, but
Somebody has
being
to
on-
keep the home fires burning, right?
Yes, yes, but we are both very active people in this community, and so I'm not sure she's going to slow down now that I am.
Now it's her turn?
Right.
And Pam was a beautiful first lady.
Absolutely.
All right, so at this point, I guess I move on to item 13.2, acknowledge and file the official final election report of November 4th, general election dated November 25th. Ms. Zito?
You actually have two items this evening,
Yes, we do.
13.2 and 13.3, that do seem similar, but they require separate actions. The acknowledgement is of the final elections report. 13.3 actually is in the elections code that you have to accept by resolution the canvass of the ballots. And that includes the canvass of each vote by precinct. What I copied in your packet was every page that had Placerville's precincts. The report itself is over, I think it was 84, 87 pages. So if anyone is interested, you can certainly see the original canvas in my office, but I didn't copy it here in the sake of a lot of pages that wouldn't even affect us. So acknowledgement and file of 13.2, and then we'll need a motion for 13.3.
Okay, any questions, comments?
I did have a question. It's just a simple question, but I was looking at the Measure I and the Measure K and the totals and how they tallied up, and then I was looking at the city council, and in South Lake Tahoe too, there was like 38 votes that didn't add, and I think they had like 29. Is that because there were some voided, what is that?
It could be. The percentage of votes don't necessarily equal 100%.
Yeah, I noticed.
Because of damaged ballots, because Councilmember Thomas went with me to one of the physical counts. We were invited, the city was invited twice to go for the recounting by hand of the ballots that had gone through the computers, just as it's a double check that they do of close elections. They did it for the city of Placerville. They did it for South Lake Tahoe that had very close contests. And in that process, there were provisional ballots. There were ballots that they just could not identify. They could not identify that the person was ever registered to vote. They couldn't identify. So there was a couple of different things. I don't think that that they necessarily percentile-wise have to meet 100%. And as you noted, that the numbers don't add up because not everybody votes for every item on an agenda. Some people might have voted for 2 council members when they could have voted for 3, or they chose not to vote for certain measures. So if you look at the number of registered voters in Placerville, the total number of people voted changed from measure to measure, from council member to council member. The full report goes to the Secretary of State, and it's a pretty complicated statistical report that elections prepares for them. So I've just given you the precincts for Placerville that would matter to your body. Did that answer the question?
Yeah, I was just noticing on K and I how there must have been no damaged ballots because those 2 actually did match up to 100%. Yeah.
Sometimes it does and sometimes it doesn't. But I think that Councilmember Thomas and I observed just how much work county elections has to put into trying to make every vote count. They don't disregard anything. There are mangled ballots. There are people that, rather than filling in the blank, we actually saw ballots that had written on them, this one. They wrote this one with circles and arrows. And they did that multiple times on the ballot. Then other times they filled in a blank. And was it their intent? Obviously it was their intent to vote for that one. But they have to look for errant marks. And sometimes errant marks can be read by the computers differently. They showed us how they look hand by hand and count those ones that may have a stray mark on them. So they really do due diligence within the 30 days they're allowed by law to get this thing certified. So it was impressive.
It was.
And I'm very glad that they do it on our behalf.
And we don't. All right. Well, thank you. Any other questions, comments? You have a motion?
I move that we acknowledge and file the official final election report of the November 4th, 2014 general election dated November 25th, 2014.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And item
13.3.
13.3? I know it's a similar.
I'll make a motion that we adopt the resolution of the City Council, City of Placerville, accepting the certification of the canvass of ballots by the El Dorado County Registrar of Voters for the November 4th, 2014 election.
Second?
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. At this point, we are at item 13.4, which is the administration of oath of office to the new council members and the presentation of election certificates.
If Councilmember Thomas, Vice Mayor Borelli, and Councilmember-elect Clarici could join me on the dais.
Back to me for, that's what happened. That's what I'm done.
If you'll raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, please state your name, do solemnly affirm that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California, that I take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion, and that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties upon which I'm about to enter. Congratulations.
Nice to be back. Thank you.
I believe that's my chair now, Carl.
I don't think so. It's Patty's chair.
You can go ahead and sit there, and I'll just stay right here, because all my stuff is right
Oh, they
here.
took down the mayor's sign.
Damn, I thought I was gonna be mayor for 2 minutes. Hi there.
You look good up here, John.
Well, thank you.
Welcome to the group.
What did he say? That's right.
Oh, that's yours.
I guess so. Oh, somebody said that.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, we now are on item 15, request for future agenda items.
Yes, Vice Mayor Burley, I do have one. Okay. In preparation for the budget season, I would like the council, sometime in January at staff's convenience, to get an update on our capital projects, to see especially where we are on our sewer system maintenance plan that we adopted in 2012. I'd like to know, for example, what progress we've made on the goals and objectives that are listed in that plan, and what our infrastructure and capital priorities are for the next year. And I know I was talking with our city manager, and perhaps the best way to do this would be in a workshop format this next year, so we could have an in-depth discussion on this and really know what our needs are for the next year before we go into budget cycle, so we can make the best decisions for the rather crucial needs of our city. So I'd like to propose we do that.
Along the same line, the city finance director emailed out or to the members of the council the asset list, and so if we could maybe incorporate the capital improvements along with what we have as far as our assets, and maybe prioritize in more of a global or look at what our community has, what it needs, what it's doing good at, what it doesn't need to look at. But I think that I would like to see it incorporated, both of those things incorporated in this kind of mid-year budget.
It sounds like they
workshop.
kind of go hand in hand.
Absolutely.
So,
That sounds great.
Cleve, did you write that down?
I did. Can I just comment quickly? My only request is Dave Warren, our finance director, have discussed this. Our only request is if we could do that, we want to look at more towards the end of February rather than January.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Just timing with the budget, and we'll do our mid-year budget in January, and then getting time to do the work necessary to prepare for that workshop. It'll probably be late February, early March even, perhaps, right, Dave? So, and we're working on the budget calendar right now. We'll share that with you and get those dates out to you probably at your January meeting, your first January meeting. We should have that for you, so.
Great.
One thing that I have requested, and councils before me have requested, is that we get some sort of a timer for the podium, and I'd like to see that, and I know that I asked our
IT person.
yeah, what's his
Darren.
Darren.
Darren Baldy.
I kept wanting to say his last name, but I couldn't remember. Darren, and he's looked into some costs, and they're pretty nominal. And but I'd like to get that started and done.
I have another request before we move off of this
Okay.
item, and that is, in light of the Measure K, when I would like to look at the Western Placerville Drive project, and I don't know if Caltrans is moving forward, or I just would like an update on the Western Placerville Drive interchange.
And how Measure K impacts that? Is that what you're talking about? Yeah.
Okay.
And I mean, we have to have don't we have to have a vote of the council to get these
A
items
consensus.
on?
I'd agree with that.
Yeah, we don't really need a vote, but a consensus of the council for having those items.
Do we have a consensus?
Yes.
Head nod is okay?
Head nod, okay.
That's good.
Official head nod.
You got that, Susan? Okay. Okay, city manager and staff reports.
Couple of things that I wanted to bring up. I know on our last meeting, which was our first meeting in November, I mentioned that I was going to be bringing back the funding for Main Street and the Clay Street project. We're not quite there on those. That's why it's not on your agenda tonight. But we are very close, especially on the Main Street project. I want to thank our engineers, our consulting engineer, REY, has been doing a tremendous amount of work on that. And I think we have some good solutions that will be coming from that in terms of timing to get the work done and how we're going to fund that. So that will be on your meeting in January. And based on what we're looking at and trying to get going as far as especially the water project as part of that, we're moving that up and moving quickly with this. So that first meeting in January will be critical to look at approving that funding. Other items, along those lines too, I want to emphasize January 8th is the next meeting regarding the Main Street project right here. January 8th, I think we start those at 6:30 is what we've normally done. That will be critical. Will be the public will be given their input. We'll have what we've done is we've broken out the base project for the Main Street project, and then we'll have a list of a la carte items that you can look at and choose from to add to that, that they can give the public can give their input, and then we'll bring that back to you on the 13th to include as part of the funding that you approve on that date as far as what extras above the base project that we might consider. So that will be coming to you then.
I have a question.
Yes.
Are our workshops televised?
No, I mean, we could. The cameras can do that. They're not set up as well to do down there as they are up here, but we could do that if you'd like to have them. Anytime, let me know if you
That
feel
might
it's
be
important.
something, that's a good thought, Tricia, I think.
Because everybody can't get, and those, especially for the designed for the community, and I think it would be great.
And I think those are the last thing I wanted to mention, as part of the Main Street project, one thing that we established and we've been looking at is what we can do to market and help our downtown businesses during that construction period. And I've been meeting with the committee. We've met twice, anyway, a couple of times, and we'll be having some recommendations. We'll be bringing those back to you on January 13th also. And those will involve some additional funding that we didn't anticipate at the beginning of the year. But I think from my experience in going through a downtown rehab project in the past, it's extremely important that you work with the businesses and include them in the process and help them in terms of some marketing ideas that will help keep them doing well during the project. So.
Okay, and then you're on the next upcoming items.
Yeah, it's a ways out, January 13th, but we do have the few items that you can see on here, the Boys and Girls Club appeal will be back then, and then we have an agreement we've been working on with the Goldbug Park Committee in terms of changing some of the functions going on out of the park that we'll be bringing back to you also. I think that's it for now. I'm sure there will be other items. Obviously, I just discussed the funding for
Right.
Main Street and Clay Street. We'll be looking at those at that time too. So.
I'm going to just kind of enter something that probably I should have said it earlier, but I got this in the mail, and it's from Moore, and they do work for us. Their clients work for us, and like clean the garage and different things. But I thought this was really important to. There's such a great organization, but it says Moore 2014, because you gave. Moore was able to provide services to 230 adults with developmental disabilities in the most recent fiscal year. A total of 83 new clients earned a paycheck through Moore or from their job in the community. Moore earned a 96% satisfaction rate from those we serve, an unheard of percentage, and the reason we continue to receive referrals. Once again, we received a 3-year accreditation by CARF, which is the Commission of Accreditation for Rehabilitation Facilities, a nationwide accreditation. Moore's dedicated and committed staff have grown to 82 strong. I just find that it's just unbelievable when these, you know, we were all around when, well, I was, when they started, and Carl was, when just a few staff members, and it's just, anyway. We received the 2014 Nonprofit of the Year Award from Pollock Pines Camino Chamber, and were recognized by Congressman Tom McClintock, Senator Ted Gaines, Assemblymember Frank Bigelow. We are grateful for your support, but I thought that was real important to mention. You know, they're such a large part of our community, and we recognize them, so. Okay, any closing comments from anybody that you're thinking about? Okay, with that, oh, Carol, you do have, okay.
Actually, I would just like to wish everyone a very Merry Christmas.
Yeah.
And that's what I was gonna close with too, is
Yeah.
hope you all have a very Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, safe and sound, and we'll see you next year.
That was good.
Thank you so much.
Well done, John. That was excellent. Excellent.
I think this might have been the high point of my political career right here.
And